started off as a chemical farmer back in 2009, and then I got poisoned. And thank goodness it was only 3 or 4 months into the start of my farming career, because straight away I started to change, and I went straight into natural farming, and I had to study, and it took me 4 to 5 years before I developed the concept and how to do it naturally. And it was all with the discovery of the microbes, the invisible world. And it's the invisible world really that does everything. Well, the first thing to do is understand the basics, how a plant eats and how it's protected. We've got to understand that on this leaf, for example, here, there's 1 billion microbes that's covering this leaf. Okay, we got to understand I'm down here, even in this little handful of soil there, this little pit of soil there, there's about 4 or 5 billion microbes. Okay, bacteria, nematode, protozoa, and champignon, or we call it fungi in English. And these things here, okay, when they're in balance, because they balance themselves out, they're feeding this plant. The plant grabs exudates, creates exudates from the sole, from the sun, takes it down to the root system and puts it out through the root system. It's like a signal. And it's calling for nitrogen, it's calling for calcium, it's calling for phosphorus, it's calling for sodium, it's calling for all these chemicals, natural chemicals it needs to form. So the plant's being fed by microbes, but it's the plant that's feeding the microbes. Its exudates is the food for the microbe, and the microbe takes that exudate, transforms it, it's almost alchemy, and gives it back nitrogen, or gives it back phosphorus, everything that this plant needs. It's not chemical on grains. We don't go and buy an NPK thing in a tube in a shop for 5,000 francs that's come all the way from China. We make it here. We've got seaweed everywhere. Seaweed has 80 odd elements in it, and it's got the trace elements that these plants need, and the important hormone cytokinin, which gives us the strength, like seaweed has its strength. The world invisible, and then we go back into fish. We got the fish in the sea here. We live in an island here, and the fish here we make ourselves, and we make these beautiful fish concentrates of nitrogen, which is basically for the azote, for the nitrogen, which feeds the bacteria primarily, which gives the plant basically what it needs, the amino acids, which are the building blocks of life things, and then composts and compost teas and all these things that help nothing other than the microbes. We're feeding the microbes who then feed the plant. But I'd say have a conscience of the world invisible. Get to know it. It's not too difficult. It's not too difficult. Keep it simple. But you've got your 4 groups. You've got your nematodes, your protozoa, you've got your bacteria, and you've got your fungi or your champignon friends. Okay? You've got these groups. Keep them in balance. Know how to feed them. Know what they need. They need their fish, they need their seaweed, they need their composting from the leaves that drop down here, and then we can make our own compost. If we're able to just work with microbes, the microbes then do all the work for us. People say to me, how many workers have you got, Johnny? I say billions, because that's the fact. I don't do the work, they do the work. I just know how to make them happy and feed them, and they've got a party going on, and I'm happy. Well,